Hey, mamas, and welcome back to Knit Your Stress Away, your podcast all around knitting for stress relief, specifically for beginners. I'm Nadine Medina. I'm your host here on the Knit Your Stress Away podcast. And today we're going to break down or bust 3 myths that you may have that are holding you back from learning to knit. If you have thought about learning to knit, but it just doesn't happen, chances are that you have believed at least one of these common myths. And in today's episode, we're going to break them down because they might be standing in your way, and I just don't want that for you. So let's get started. Welcome to Knit Your Stress Away. I am Nadine Medina, a mom who rediscovered knitting during a stressful season and found it to be the ultimate way to relax, recharge, and reconnect with myself. If you're feeling overwhelmed and wondering if there's a creative outlet that could actually help you feel calmer and in more control, you're in the right place. In this podcast, I'll show you how knitting can be a simple stress-busting tool, even if you've never picked up needles before. So take a deep breath, let go of the chaos for a moment, and let's explore how knitting could become your new favorite way to find calm and joy. Hey there, and welcome to this episode. This is actually episode 81. It's just wow. I'm just like, this is amazing. I'm just so grateful for all of you guys who, show up here week after week after week. And I really do hope that you are getting something out of it. I know the last few weeks have been sort of heavy on the beginners end to, teach people how to start knitting and, what they need to start knitting and such, and less on the stress relieving part, or the part that talks about like how this is, really benefiting you in so many ways, really. But rest assured, we are going back to all of those topics as well. And I would love to actually hear from you too. If you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I wish you would just talk about this on the podcast, I would highly encourage you to send me a message on Instagram. It's at @theknittingmamas_. You can just send me a DM and let me know what you would like for me to cover on this podcast when it comes to knitting, specifically in the area of stress relief, things that you're dealing with where you're like, okay, maybe this could really come in handy. I'm just never doing it. One thing in particular that I did want to mention before we get into today's topic is swapping your knitting for your phone. It's something that I've been recently really trying to be intentional about, and it's as simple as placing your phone next to, well, actually the other way around, probably placing your knitting project next to your phone, and then make a real conscious choice that when you have that urge to reach for your phone because you're trying to look for a message or a social media or whatever it might be that isn't a necessity, like, okay, I need to write something on my list, on my shopping list, that's something legitimate to grab your phone for. But if it's just like, oh, let me check Instagram or let me look at the news, there are probably better things to do with your time. And I've been consciously trying to grab my knitting project instead of the phone in those moments. So placing them next to each other is really helpful for that reminder, because otherwise, your brain just takes over and it's like, oh, I'm just grabbing my phone completely absent-mindedly. So just a little thing that I wanted to, pass along that's been really helpful for me, especially in these crazy times where the news are not all that fun to read. So a little, hopefully help here. But again, we're going to talk about all the good things that are benefiting our mental health and our, stress levels and all those things as well here on this podcast. So please keep coming back, keep listening. I love hanging out with you. Today's episode, like I said in the beginning, we're breaking down 3 common myths that might be standing in your way of starting to knit, of learning to knit specifically. Whether you've been hesitating to start or you've tried it before and felt discouraged, I want to help you see that knitting is in fact totally doable for you, even if you have a busy schedule or don't even feel like I'm crafty, right? So let's bust some knitting myths. Myth number 1. You may think that knitting is too hard to learn. That is actually a common thing that I hear all the time. Whenever people look at the little reels or videos that I make on Instagram specifically, sometimes on Facebook or in the group, it's like, oh my gosh, I really wish I could do that, but it just doesn't even look like something I can attempt. So many people think it's too complicated to start knitting because they see these like crazy sweaters, crazy patterns, lace, shawls, and whatnot, or they watch people knit really fast and it's this like, oh, I can't do that. I wish, but I just can't. And then when you kind of couple that with, I just don't even have time to focus on something complicated, it kind of, the whole intention goes out the window, right? But here's the truth. Let's bust this myth because I'm just so excited about that because it's not that way, guys, at all. So first, you only need to learn, 2 stitches. Really? Just one though. The knit stitch will get you so far. There's a knit and a purl stitch. Everything else is based off of those stitches, right? And you really, really, really only need the knit stitch. The purl stitch you can wait on. If you're like, oh no, too much, do the purl stitch. You can make an entire sweater or cardigan if that sounds too much, because, I always tell you to start with something small, obviously, but just for the sake of the argument, you can make an entire cardigan or sweater with the knit stitch. You can also make an infinity scarf or a little neck scarf or a headband, all just with one stitch. And if you don't know that, it's so easy to think, oh gosh, I just can't do this. This is going to be too much. Now, the second thing is you do not have to follow any complicated patterns, right? You can make simple projects, super simple, like a dishcloth. It's like a square, right? You can make a scarf, which is a little bit more interesting maybe than a dishcloth because you get to wear it. Yay. Or coasters, which I think is so cute for the spring or the summer because you can have little coasters outside with your little wine bottle and they can match or they can be different colors. And so cute, so cute. So think about it that way, where, versus like, oh, I saw this really complicated looking sweater that someone made on Instagram and they knit really fast and it's like, I just can't do that. So go to the basics and see what is out there that is for total beginners. And just a little insert here, if you haven't downloaded my 3 things you need to start knitting beginner's cheat sheet yet, you should definitely do that because I also have a page in there that has some links to beginner patterns that you can literally start right away. I picked them on purpose to be super simple, but that is not to say that they're not for someone who has already been knitting, because you can make something simple and very joyful as well, even if you are not a total beginner anymore. So go ahead and grab that cheat sheet. You can get it on my website at thenittingmamas.com/start. And the third thing in this myth that knitting might be too hard to learn is just think about mistakes as in everyone does them, right? And they're fixable. And even experienced knitters still make mistakes. So the other day, I was finishing this cute little neck scarf for a friend of mine, which, by the way, I had to undo half of it because of a mistake that I couldn't fix, and which is why I'm kind of late giving it to her. But I was finally almost at the end, and I dropped a stitch, and I was like, oh, you have got to be kidding me. Like, I'm so close to the end, and I'm dropping a stitch. But it happened when I was not even, like, I was watching TV, I think, while I was knitting, and I noticed it 3 rows above where I was like, wait a minute, something's weird here. It looks odd. And I noticed that the stitch was starting to unravel all the way down. So there's ways to fix that. You can use a little crochet hook. There's other ways to fix it. That's what I used. Put the crochet hook in there and then fixed it all up, put it back on the needle, and then I was ready to go. It takes a little bit of practice. You have to take a deep breath and not be too disappointed. But I feel like it's almost like a good practice, right? To be taking a breather before you react. Something that we probably all can use. I know I definitely always need to do this. So for me, that's great practice to be like, okay, this is not ideal, not happy about it, but hey, it can be fixed. And it's not something that defines me as a knitter. It's like, oh no, now I'm a bad knitter because I dropped a stitch. It's not that. But learning how to fix them is certainly part of the process and should not hold you back from actually trying to do it. So if you have ever looked at knitting and thought, hey, you know what, I could never do that, trust me and believe me, you absolutely can. It is all about starting simple and definitely giving yourself grace to learn. And I know that that's not always easy for us, even if we are saying that's what we do. All right, moving on to myth number 2. Knitting takes too much time. And I so get this one. Like, I completely get this. This kind of ties back, though, into the phone thing that I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, where it's like, okay, where is our time actually going, right? As a busy mom, we don't feel like we have hours to sit down and knit every day. But let's shift our perspective on this just a little bit, okay? So first, I want to talk about how you can actually make progress on your project, on your knitting project, in just a few minutes a day. So if you're like, okay, 5 to 10 minutes in the morning or maybe just before bed, it does add up on your project. But more importantly, it actually helps you slow down, right? Instead, we just talked about it, of endless scrolling on your phone, watching the news, looking at the news, doom scrolling at night, you can actually swap that out and you can relax with a calm and creative activity, which will put you in such a better mood. I 100% promise. And that's why I'm putting myself through this little trial right now where I'm like, nope, not grabbing the phone, grabbing the needles. And it's not always easy. I can tell you that, because this like dopamine hit we get from grabbing the phone comes a lot quicker with the phone and with social media and with the news and messages and likes and comments and blah, all that stuff, right? It'll take a second to get that from a much more quiet and calm and slow activity like knitting. But once you do, you're like, yeah, no, I'm not putting this down. Like, this is so calming. This is so awesome. I need to do more of this. And there you go. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, I need to work this into my schedule more because it feels so good and it makes me feel so good. I sleep better. I, feel more calm. I take a breath before I react. Like, all of that matters in the grand scheme of things. And before you know it, you actually make time for it because it makes you feel so good. So this whole like knitting takes too much time, or learning it takes too much time, you can just literally flip it on its head and say, no, this is so worth it because I have other things that I waste my time on and I can replace it with knitting. You see that? I mean, that is just such a great mindset shift, I think, that everyone, beginner or not beginner, needs to think about. And the last thing here is you don't have to finish a project in one sitting. It's like so flexible. You can literally pick this hobby up anywhere you go. I think it's one of the most flexible hobbies that we have. Like, for example, if you like love playing the guitar, it's not necessarily always easy, unless it's like a ukulele, to take that thing along with you. And even if you were to do that, you can't just start playing the guitar anywhere you want because it may disrupt people depending on what you're doing, right? So if I'm like in, my kid's dance studio and I just want to do something, I can read, which I love. You guys know my ongoing battle between if I'm picking up my book or my knitting, right? But I couldn't just pull up my guitar and start playing. I mean, some people may enjoy it, but others may not. So the same goes for, I always use this example too, like a sewing machine. Great hobby. Freaking love sewing myself. But it is not as portable at all. Like, so wherever you have it set up in your house, or wherever you say, okay, this is where it's going to go when I do need to sew something, it's not like you're going to carry that thing around to the kitchen and then to the office and then wherever else you're going to be, or at night, let me just sew a little bit here right next to my bed. It's just not going to happen. But this you can take anywhere for the most part. There may be a couple of like projects where you're like, okay, I'm not going to take these 5 yarn balls that I need because I have different colors to work with, all over the place. But that's why you put on what I call just mindless project, so that you always have something that you can take along with you where you can pick up and go, pick up where you left last time. And it's just so easy to weave into your day. So you almost removing all the excuses as to why knitting takes up too much time, right? And it's never about speed. It's about the process. And I feel like that's something that we all have to embrace, because oftentimes it seems like, it's all a competition. Look, I got to get this done as fast as this other person. It's just another side effect of not going on social media as much, but instead knit and be like, you know what? I'm on my own unique journey. I don't care. I'm getting this done when I'm getting this done. And what matters is how I feel in the process. If you continue to compare to other people and think, I have to get this done really quickly, it becomes a stressful thing. You put yourself under pressure and it loses this entire effect. So let's not go there. Knitting is a great way to unwind without adding any stress to your schedule. Okay, and here's the last myth, and I hear this one often too, and it is, I'm not a crafty person. I literally hear this from so many people. I could never knit. I'm not creative. I could never knit. I'm not crafty. Let me let you in on a little secret. I'm not creative either. And everyone always says, you're so creative. I'm like, I'm not. And I'm not even mad about it either. It doesn't, I'm not creating things from scratch. Like, I used to photograph people for a living, and it was always like, oh, you're so creative. And I'm like, I learned a skill. I know how to use this camera. I know how to use light, and I know how to compose an image. I wouldn't necessarily personally call that creative, but I will take it if someone tells me. I'm like, yeah, that's great. But I think people who are creative are the ones who actually make the patterns, who create the garments, who come up with color combinations and, put things together, make the yarn, dye the yarn. Like, it's just, gosh, it's such an art and I love it. Or, like my daughter who does watercoloring and she just like randomly colors or draws something or paints something. And I'm like, that is mind blowing to me. I take a pattern and then I do the thing that it says in the pattern. And then I hold something in my hand that looks stunning. And I'm like, wow, I made this. But it did not involve any, artsy creativity coming up with things at all. And again, I may have some creativity in me. I'm not doubting that. But I want to emphasize this point that you do not have to be artsy or crafty because all you do is follow a pattern, right? If you can hold a fork or tie your shoes, you can knit. Let's just say it that simply. And I don't think anybody's naturally good at knitting. It's just a skill that you learn, like you ride a bike or like you're cooking a new recipe. And it is following a recipe. It's just simply that. So if that is what holds you back because you see people being super creative and you're like, wow, that's just not in my blood, please, please don't let that hold you back at all. I have seen people make the most amazing things because they follow a pattern, and that's it, right? The other thing that I wanted to tell you here is that when you start small, it helps build your confidence. And if you have, I talk about this all the time too on Instagram, when you make this ginormous, ambitious piece that you want to knit because it's gorgeous and you see it somewhere like a gigantic blanket, it can be awesome and it's going to be fun. But if that's in the beginning, you may lose interest before it's done. So I highly recommend making some small things, like I mentioned in the beginning, the coasters, the dishcloth, a small scarf, so that you can build your confidence as you finish things. And then you can see what amazing things you can create, right? Without feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to be creative this entire time. And that's actually the problem here. So you're increasing your confidence about your abilities as a knitter. So focus on the basics, right? And soon enough, you'll be making all these beautiful handmade pieces that are looking completely complicated. So you have got this. You've got this. All right, this is wrapping up this episode now. And if you've ever believed that knitting is too hard, too time-consuming, or that you're just not the crafty type, I hope that this episode kind of helped you through those myths, really, and busted them for you so you can actually just go ahead and pick up those needles and start. And remember the thing I talked to you about time. If you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't fit this into my life, make it. Literally make it. Take 30 minutes once a week and just start. Knitting is for anyone, including you. And all it takes is just a little time, a few basic stitches, and your willingness to start. And I hope I motivated you today to grab some supplies and get started. And if you're not sure what supplies you need, I have a cheat sheet that you can download. It's the perfect time for you to download that right after this episode. You go to thenittingmamas.com/start, grab your cheat sheet, and then you can grab your supplies. It has all the links in there of the ones that I highly recommend. And it also has a glossary page of the knitting lingo and abbreviations, which will totally come in handy as soon as you open up a pattern. So print that page out, have it in your, in your area, wherever you keep your tools, and then let's do this. If you have any questions for me, if you want to know how to get started, I have you covered. You can come into our group as well, thenittingmamas.com/group. And I also have a starter guide that you can grab as well. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. And I hope I see you right here next week on the Knit Your Stress Away podcast. Until then, happy knitting, mamas. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on today's episode. I hope you're walking away with a bit more inspiration and a few ideas to make your self-care a priority. If today's chat gave you a little boost, I'd love it if you could leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This helps other moms discover the podcast and start finding more calm and creativity in their day as well. And don't forget to join us over in the Knitting Mamas community on Facebook by going to theknittingmamas.com/group. Thanks again, and remember, you deserve time for yourself to recharge and feel your best. Catch you next time on the Knit the Stress Away podcast.